Hey there, magical experimenters. Taylor Ellwood here, and I'm going to talk about judgment and release a bit more today. As you know, I recently switched over to working with the Martian energy of Gavora um, for this month of connection and truth. And it's been really interesting because so far this energy has really been around releasing judgments and working through judgments and in relationship to myself and other people. I mean, I basically I basically found myself considering different people in my life and the judgments that I've held about those people, and basically allowing myself to let those fall away. And it's interesting because when you consider, if you understand, if you know the Kabbalah, you know that basically Gabora is all about judgment. So this is an approach that seems counterintuitive. You're working with this energy to release judgments, but I think it actually just illustrates how versatile Kabbalah can be, and how versatile working with a given energy can be. That we don't have to hold on to too narrow of a limitation about how a specific energy or presence or something along those lines, how it works. Instead, we can really open ourselves up to it. And for me, what was fascinating was that last night I ended up having this dream about this person that's no longer in my life, but in August, she came into my life like a wrecking ball, and then she left, and it was angry at me, and I was angry at her. Like we had all these judgments about each other, and in the dream we expressed these judgments to each other, and then we ended up really sitting down and actually talking. And I felt like the judgments just kind of fell away. Like I released my judgments toward her, and she released her judgments toward me. Now I don't know if in real life this person would do that or not, but at least the dream version of her did. And it was fascinating for me because it kind of brought a bit of peace for me in regards to this person. So I was grateful for that. But in regards to myself, I've been doing this work, taking this work even further, and it's kind of examining the judgments that I've held about myself in my life, like the judgments I'm holding now and the judgments in the past, and recognizing that, I have had a tendency to take too much responsibility on when it comes to other people. And part of that I see is really just that I have essentially compromised myself over the years with different people. And I've allowed at times people to put more responsibility on me than I perhaps should have taken. And of course, I mean, I can boil this down to basically having to be a super responsible kid, because basically I ended up raising myself a lot of the time, and had to be responsible for myself and take care of myself. But I also see it even as a kind of a relationship indicator, because I look at the relationships that I've had with different people and how those people have ended up taking on the roles, to some degree in the past that I've had. And that's some of that's on me. I mean, I've projected that onto them. I'm not going to say it's entirely on them. And so I recognize that too. So I've been releasing these judgments both in relationship to those people and in relationship to myself. Just, working with it as I've been in the car doing my DoorDash, and just really holding space with this notion of judgment, and how judgment can be released, and how we don't have to live with the judgments that define our lives, that we can instead choose to embrace the possibility that those judgments are actually inaccurate, and that they're creating this false dynamic and tension within ourselves, these false narratives of identity that are holding us back. And so it's fascinating work because it's this gentler side of Gavora, of this Martian energy. And in tandem with all this, the other night, a friend of mine did a reading for me. Really, we did readings for each other, but like it was one of the readings was, what do you need to work on? And one of the cards she ended up pulling was the Lover's card. And, I and her interpretation of it was an interesting one. and I could see where she was coming from, but I really thought about it further, and the conclusion I came to is this is really about me learning to love myself, learning not to hold myself in judgment, learning how to release these judgments that I have carried with me from the relationships that I've been in, judgments that I've held on to about myself, judgments that I've put on myself, sometimes judgments that other people put on me, but that if I really want to love myself and really if I want to show up in this new life that I'm starting to build out, I need to let go of everything that doesn't serve me. And if you know me, you know that recently, I've kind of been adhering to this quote by Anthony Hopkins about about the people that you let into your life and the people you let go. You want to show up for the people that show up for you. But I was thinking, this can be applied even further to you want to also show up for you. And if you're not showing up for yourself, it's not that you let yourself go, but you let go of the judgments that you're holding over yourself, over your head. And so I'm really examining this from the perspective of, well, sometimes I've held these really false narratives, these really judgmental beliefs and perspectives about myself that aren't accurate. And so by letting them go and truly trusting in myself to let them go, what I'm discovering is that I can be gentler with myself. I can hold space with myself and I can love myself. And I know you're probably thinking, "Oh, geez, wine cringe." I mean, this isn't like this isn't the typical magical stuff that we talk about. But I think it is an inherent, an important part of magical work that's often glossed over in favor of results, results, results. Well, hey, results are important, but maybe one of the best results we can have is entering into a better relationship with ourselves, where we're not judging ourselves so harshly, where we're allowing ourselves to truly be open to and present with all of ourselves in a way that's pure instead of being filtered by the tensions that we've adopted and taken on ourselves. And I know for me that in releasing these judgments that I've held about myself and releasing the judgment that others may have held about me and then releasing the judgments that I've held about other people, that I feel this burden coming off of me. I feel this sense of clarity and focus that's allowing me to truly examine, like, what do I want for my life here on out. And when you reach a certain age, you start to look at things differently. I mean, I'm 44 years old and I'm not an old fart or anything like that quite yet, but it's interesting how being in my 40s does change the narrative for me in some ways. And it's like, what do I want to carry forward? What do I want to let go of? What really matters to me versus continuing to hold on to things that don't matter? And I think for me, like, what really matters is I don't want to hold on to the baggage of the past anymore. That baggage has defined my relationships. That baggage has defined my interactions with people. That baggage has defined me. And so this month, doing this work around judgment and really truly releasing it and letting it go, and actually doing the Qigong work I've been doing, where I've actually been working with like the ligaments and the tendons of my body and, tensing and releasing and letting those go, has also been super relevant to this, because I felt like things have just kind of slid off and I've been able to let go of these things, these tensions that would otherwise define me and define my interactions with other people. So it's kind of an interesting thing that I'm experimenting with this month with truth and connection and with the Gavoric energy. And it's a good reminder that, like, we shouldn't adhere too sharply to the correspondences that are put onto Kabbalah or any other system out there, but that we should examine them and challenge what we know to discover what we can learn, as I always like to say, because what we can learn as a result can ultimately liberate us from the very things that would otherwise hold us back on our spiritual path and on our life. So those are my thoughts for you. A little afternoon philosophy slash magic, because it is magic. I mean, it's working with it's choosing to work with a specific correspondence in a different way than what's expected. And hopefully you guys find it of some insight and value. And otherwise, I wish you an awesome and amazing day. Take care.